Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Kian here. I just wanted to let you guys know that we are on Spotify now. So go ahead, check that out. Link's going to be in the description below. Now let's go ahead and get ready for this episode.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to episode 3 of the Naus podcast. My name's Kevin, also known as Tishu, and I'll be your host tonight. Sitting with me is Bryce, Kian, and Adam, though you might know them best as Valium, Varless, and Poppyphobia. You can find us in the Naus Discord, linked below. We just had a big shakeup with the cEDH decklist database this past week, and we'll be discussing those changes and how they affect the cEDH meta. I'm going to hand it off to Adam now to get us started.
All right, guys, what's going on? So, on April 19th, we got a new update to the cEDH decklist database that was pretty significant. It's probably the biggest update that we've had on the database in a while, and a lot of things have changed. So we thought that for this episode, we'd talk about some of the stuff that has changed, some things that have shook up the meta, and our ideas and thoughts on all those things. So, to get started, we're going to talk about some of the new decks that got added to the Brewer's Corner. So I think all you guys, we've discussed it a little bit before this episode, but a lot of things have been added to the Brewer's Corner. And we got a lot of thoughts on a lot of these decks that have been added. Some things are good. Some things we think are not so good. Some of these decks are not as good as I think other people might think, and that is just our opinion. But we're here to talk about that today and go through some of these lists. So some lists of significance that have been added to the database. Specifically on the Brewer's Corner side of the database. We got Arden, Rograk, Godo, Helm, Armix, Jeska, World Gorger, Armix, Crom, Midrange, Naus. Now that's actually a really good list that I think some of us have had some experience playing against. I know I've played Armix, Crom a little bit in playtesting. I think we should stop on that one specifically because that's... That deck is actually making a little bit of noise. So, what do you guys... Speaking of
making noise, I scroll down a little far, skipping ahead. You got the Minsk Pod. I'm big on that one. I'm going to hold off on it, but I think that's going to be one of the bigger breakout decks.
You've literally nonstop been talking about this.
I fucking love New Vivian. I fucking love New Vivian. It's so good. No Rod, Idgaff.
But yeah, I guess here I'll just run through the.
We can just talk about it.
Yeah, I'll just run through quick like some of the decks that got added.
We can just stop on ones and then continue when we're done.
Yeah. So Armix Crom midrange, Armix Thrasios midrange, Armix Timna Turbo Naus, Chainer Ooze Reanimator, Ishai Kodama Stacks.
Something I want to note there, right? You just saw Armix 3 times in a row. Four times. I don't even think it was on the DDB
at all. It wasn't there.
No.
And episode 1, I believe, you talked about Armix and we're giving it a big game. You've played with him, her, it, whatever. How do you feel about Armix overall?
I like Armix. I've talked in previous episodes that I think Armix is like a really cool hate bear out of the command zone. It's a good help piece when it comes to control decks, specifically just controlling the board in general. It helps against stack decks because a lot of stack decks are creature based nowadays. So being able to, give -1/-1 to those stacked creatures to get them off the board can help you kind of progress your game plan a little bit. So I think if you're going to play with black anyways and you're looking for a black partner, there's not a better option than Armix. So I don't know. I'm glad to see that it's getting some love. Another guy who's getting some love on the database is Arden too. I know that Callahan from the Mind Sculptors is a big Arden stan. They are a big fan of Arden as a commander, and I think it's cool. It's limited, for sure.
I would say it's limited, so it's weird. I've played with Arden casually, and a very small amount. I've played like one game competitively. Arden has like 3 things that he's good at. One of them is Skull Clamp. The other one is Skull Clamp. The third one is like Wild Growth. Right,
but you're forgetting about the modern all-star Colossus Hammer, Kevin. Just slap that baby on.
Add Naus, more like 10 less Naus.
Yeah, I mean Arden is cool. It's limited. I'll leave it there. I don't think it's as good as it could be. There's other white
If Arden had a second color, oh god, I would play her all day long.
Arden seems like a Boros card.
It's equipment. It is a good Boros commander. There's not a lot of white partner. I mean, there's white partners, but they don't all do something.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty much Tim now.
Yeah, basically. So like having just a mono white partner that does something relatively positive, that's I think why Arden sees a lot of play. And a lot of people are into equipment packages, Stormforge list, Death and Taxes type stuff. Like it's nostalgic to a lot of people. So I think that's why Arden sees a lot of play. Yeah. Some notable stuff that got added that we're fans of. Ishai Kodama stacks.
Yeah, so me and Adam here have been particularly looking at that. Not super recently, but we did have a whole brewing session for like a week where I looked at the Sakadama lists and I was like, wow, this seems really good, but I noticed a shift in our meta where mostly Adam was pushing it, where it was like, hey, stacks is still good. Like, it's not, all turbo, no brakes. Brakes look kind of good. So I was like, okay, well, looking at Kodama here, we can just cheat in stacks pieces. This looks really good. And I brought this up to Adam and we were brewing it. He's like, don't you know this is still in the brewer's corners? I was like, oh, okay. So I look it up. And it's the same build as Sakadama, where they're just trying to turbo and play through stacks. But I didn't see any stacks pieces in there. I'm like, we should try and take this a new direction. We went through the whole building process. I wasn't a huge fan of the way it turned out, but I felt like it was definitely an interesting direction, and there was some potential there. I don't feel like my deck building abilities were able to unlock it in the way I wanted, but I'm glad to see that a stacks version has made it onto the Brewers Corners, and it's not just jank.
Yeah, I'll say I think Kodama does have a calling in cEDH. I know it's in a couple decks. I've tried at least 3 different Abzan stacks decks. He wants to play with Roll of Loss so bad, but I don't know if you've had the same experience with the Bant version. My Abzan list, it was fun and it was cool, but it didn't quite cross the finish line. It didn't do what I wanted. It got close.
I was having problems with just getting enough steam, because you can get quite a bit of ramp and green, but trying to hit that 6th threshold and then following it up with dropping stacks, but your whole game plan is also stacks. So you're like, okay, maybe I need to be dropping this earlier, and it's like almost too conflicting of turbo acceleration and we also want to stop that game plan. And it's like, like the two can coexist because of Kodama, but until Kodama's out, the two are very much conflicting game plans.
Yeah, I can confirm that 6 mana is a lot of mana.
Yeah.
The difference between casting a 4 mana win the game card, a 5 mana frog, and a 6 mana Kodama feels like an eternity. It's like crossing an entire Grand Canyon of mana to get 1 more before a relevant turn.
And it's not like blue or white help that game plan too much. It's mostly reliant on the green side of things.
Kodama is definitely one of those cards that I think is fringe viable. You know, like it's so close to being really good in cEDH, but I think its high mana value plays a part, and I think the fact that it doesn't do enough on its own. Like, it's a mono green commander that lets you cheat a card into play for every card you play. That's really cool, but it doesn't do enough. It needs something else, right? That's why Sakadama exists. But even Sakadama is an anti-stacks deck. It needs something else to do its thing. Even in Ishai Kodama, you're playing Bant and you get Rule of Law synergies and you get all 3 pieces together, but in 3 colors you can't pull off it's almost like a storm strategy a little bit. Like you have to keep your hand full while being able to stacks out the board at the same time, which doesn't mix well already, you know? And I think that's the problem that it faces. But seeing it get some love on the database the way that we think it should have been built is really cool to see, because it shows that the ideas and things that we see in our local meta are transferring to the overall meta of cEDH as a whole, which is really cool. And it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? not like affirming, kind of
Yeah,
validating.
You're validating, gratifying.
Yeah,
it's weird because we talk about these kind of shitty decks, right? And we're just like brewing them at 2 a.m, fucking around with the whole pot of 6 of us. And then in 3 weeks on the database, someone else puts a slightly better list up than we made, and we go, "Oh,
cool!" Like
shit,
we were on the right
close.
track. Yeah, we were on the right track. Some other things that have made it onto the Brewers Quarter that's kind of cool. Another Kodama list, Kodama Timna Stacks. I think it faces the same problems that Ishai Kodama faces. A couple new Crom lists have made it onto the Brewers Corner. Yeah. Crom Malcolm Curiosity, which is cool because Malcolm has been doing a lot in the meta overall. Treasures out the command zone are good. Who would have thought?
yeah, who does that?"
And he flies.
Yeah.
Ian, how good is mana in the command zone? You tell me.
Rituals go burr.
Crom Curiosity is also another deck that's made it onto the
3
Brewers
Shorikai
Corners.
lists.
Yeah. 3 Shorikai lists. The first one is Shorikai Dramatic Scepter. Infinite mana, go burr. I think everybody knows that.
Everybody knows the Yield Classic, ISO Stick, no responses, ETB, Reversal Win.
And then also 2 Shorikai Polymorph lists, which is my personal favorite way to play or build Shorikai. I think Shorikai as a Polymorph commander is gas. I know that Whimsy, thank you. I know that Whimsy and Charles have been working on a Shorikai Stacks list that dives headfirst into Humility, and its entire goal is just to stacks out the table.
So that's where I actually don't like Shorikai as a polymorph deck. I like it more as a Scepter deck because it also works through the Humility.
Yeah, Whimsy is a guy, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's like the Azorius King. So he is the guy that is involved in like every Grand Arbiter list on the database, and is just like, that's all he plays and brews is Azorius.
He's Grand Arbiter Augustus the fifth.
Fourth, basically the fifth. Yeah, he's got his hands in everything Azorius. So as soon as Shorikai came out, he was head first in that. And
I think it's one of the best Azorius because it's a draw engine.
Yeah,
and you don't get that in Azorius.
100%. I think that out of all the new commanders that we've seen, even if, because by the time this episode's come out, New Capenna's going to be out, and we just did the pre-release this weekend, and there's some cool stuff. But I think out of all the new commanders,
it's lackluster for commander.
100%. I don't think
at least legendary creatures in the commander.
I like the new Naya one.
Rocco.
Rocco's
Rocco's he's the best thing to come out of there. But I think out of all the new commanders that we've seen, out of all these recent sets, I think Shorikai's the most viable.
I'd agree.
So it's cool to see.
And it's the most unique. It's one of 2 lists ever that can actually use Humility in an effective way.
I think it's much better at using Humility than Tevish.
I would agree.
I think that although there wasn't a lot of commanders that came out of that set, there is a lot of very interesting cards that you can put in the 99. There's need to see some play testing.
There's a lot of playable cards, just not actual commanders. There's a lot of gaps.
At some point, we might have to make an episode of discussing
a new companion set review.
Everybody else is gonna have one.
We're not doing that. That's
all of the Najila virgins out there with me, boys, professional facebreaker. We needed a second Grim Hireling. Clap in the chat.
Are you talking about? Mom, we have Dockside at home.
It's Grim Hireling at home. It makes one treasure.
Because we all know how overpowered treasures are, and it's the entire theme of the set, and it's holy crap,
I'm getting paid.
Whoa! They were like, "What if I give you an offer you can't refuse?" Literally.
And then the last few things that have been added to the database that are kind of cool. 3 Tassiger lists made it onto the database, which, Tassiger's a good commander. I'm surprised to see 3 new archetypes built around him.
Yeah, I don't feel like
because there's only one. There's Tasker, dramatic mid-range
control.
Tasker control is pretty good. Yeah. But
Hulkager.
Yeah, and
Hulk Dooms. What the?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird decks. I feel like with I'll bring this up at the end, so I'll save it. But then 2 final lists that I'd really like to talk about are made by 2 of my personal friends that I've really connected with lately over Discord. and that's Connor's Yasharn list and Inkmoth's Yeva Draw Go list.
Draw Grow.
My bad, Draw Grow. It's basically Draw Go. But two really, really impactful green decks. Kevin, you've played a little bit of Yasharn. You can talk about him.
Pig is big.
The pig is big.
I'm going to be honest.
Steamed hand.
It is incredible the number of hands you can get with a turn 1 Yasharn and the sheer degree of wrecked that people feel. Everyone groans when you slam a Dranith. They go, "Ah, man, I fucking hate Dranith." People see Pig and they're like, "Oh, I can crack my fetch land." And you're like, "No, read it again." And they go, "Oh, well, I'm going to cast it." "No, can't do that." Nope. And you realize the Pig hits so many different random things that it hurts almost as bad as Dranith, except you will never get rid of it because the 2 lands you get off of it pay for its next commander tax.
Yeah, the Yasharn is gas. I think a lot of people really liked Yasharn and saw its viability, but it had a problem closing out games, which is hard to believe considering that like mono green doesn't have a problem closing out games, and adding white shouldn't make it that much more difficult. But I think that trying to build around Yasharn specifically in that kind of like pseudo stacks build can lend a not so helping hand when it comes to that.
It's weird because you can't even really you can run crop rotation. I've done with and without, and not having a guaranteed way to find Cradle does slow your rampage down.
Yeah. And then Yeva. Friggin' cool, man. I played with Inkmoth like 4 or 5 times now at this point with his Yeva list. It's gas. Instant speed is good. I don't think there's any way around that. Like being able to win over someone else's win is always going to be good in cEDH, and it brings you back to like Flash Hulk days of like, oh, you're going to try to win the game. Well, not if I win the game first, you know.
And I think that's what green needed, because green was lacking. Like with Yisan Savala, you needed the turn to go back to you. Like you're just sitting there like, if Savala survives, I win the game. Well, if Savala survives, I win the game. With Yeva, you're like, play Yeva, play like Ashaya, Aquarian Rangers, Sabretooth, proceed to go off.
Well, and Yeva plays like Yisan in the 99. Like it's basically
it's a good card.
Any other mono green deck except you just get to play at instant speed, which is cool. And I know Inkmoth has been like pushing this list for a long time, and I know I've brought it up to you guys like a while ago, like, hey, I think this is the best mono green deck, and it's just cool to see it finally getting like the recognition it deserves. And I think on the next update, this will probably make it to the main database.
I think so as well.
I'd like to see it played at a tournament first, but I honestly think it's got what it needs.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Go ahead, Bryce.
I think also it has the advantage of it being unassuming. Like a lot of commander decks, you see the commander, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what it does. But it just says casual. Flash. And you're like, oh, he has flash. That's cool. He's playing green. I don't really care.
4/4, like I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You see something like, I don't know, like say, shoot, what's the red one that you've been playing? It's mono red.
Magda.
Yeah.
You know what's happening.
It's like, oh, look, it has all the active abilities that are necessary to win. And you're like, oh, okay, that's how it wins. I just deal with the commander. That's it. You see Evan, you're like, okay, value. What does it do? It's not obvious until you've seen it happen.
Yeah, you have to know.
It's very unassuming, as you said, until it hits, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna count. No, I can't counter that. Yeah, I'm gonna silence. Oh, you went through silence. Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it's gonna be similar to Frog in that regard. Not that you need it, the commander, to survive, but once you've seen it happen, you're like, okay, this is a threat. You know, but until you've gotten to see some experience of like, oh, okay, this is how the deck plays. It's like, okay, you draw when you crack your fetch lands. Cool. I don't care about you.
That's cute, buddy. Yeah. And then they're doing some crazy loops, and you're like, when can I stop you? And you say, that's been far too long back, but you missed that.
I think that this is one of the better decks. I think when you look at the things that have been added to the Brewers Corners,
there's a lot of good lists on here.
There's a lot of good lists, and I think like specifically when you're talking about lists that have a possibility of making it onto the actual database, I think you're looking at things like Yeva, Yasharn, I think Shorikai.
One of the Shorikai lists.
I think 2. I think you're going to see
the Polykraken and the Dramatic.
I think both will make it. I think one of them will be better, and it won't be the Poly list.
We'll have to see. I think time will tell with that one. And then I think Armix Crom you're going to see on there for sure. And then you're probably going to see I don't want to say Arden Rog because I don't like the
I've
played
played it.
personally, but I think that you just need that variety on the database. You know, they're gonna probably show Arden a little more love. You might see a Tasigur list make it, but there's just a lot of repetitiveness. You know, like there's 3 Tasigur lists, there's 3 new Crom lists, there's 4 new Armix lists. Like not all of them are gonna make it on the database, so you're gonna see a couple things get picked and chosen there. But yeah, so that's basically it for all the new decks that made it to the Brewers Corner.
I'd like to make one point. Interesting that Timna Thrasios has a stacks deck now. Mm-hmm. That kind of just played, Razakats and whatever generic 4-colored, Atraxa shit. It's nice to see that there's a slower version of those two.
I'll say this. When it comes to stacks, for one, more people are getting into it. And 2, I think more people are, after Kenrith stacks came out, are exploring these high color stacks decks. I know that Timna Crom stacks is a deck that a lot of people are playing right now, and it's kind of good. I mean,
I've seen Bryce draw like 1,000 cards with those two.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a non-bow with some stacks pieces on board, but like when you think of Timna and stacks, just play creatures and go to Beat Town, like you're gonna draw a lot of extra cards. So 4-color stacks, it's cool to see like people taking different looks on partners that have been around for quite a while. So that's pretty much it for stuff that's been added to the Brewers Corner. And then there was a couple things added to the main DDB as well. These were decks that were previously on the Brewers Corner, and the decklist database reviewers have decided that these things should be upgraded to the main database for everyone to see. They make that top 100 list, and those decks kind of get showcased above the rest. The first of which that got added was Dargo Thrasios Neo Tyrant. So it's a Neoform Poly Tyrant deck. Fucking kind of cool.
Yeah, honestly, it sounds fun. Dargo is so cool. I love Dargo, and I'm so tempted to build some sort of Dargo deck.
Dargo's cool. I like Dargo Jessica as a mono red deck. That's like a pet deck of mine that I like a lot. But that's because I come from playing Jessica Ishai. So 7 power I win the game is kind of funny. Yeah. But Dargo as a commander is cool, being able to tap your creatures to play them.
And plus the sack, like the mana reduction counts all of the things sacked this turn.
Yes.
So you get some weird Phyrexian Altar.
Yeah, all sorts of whack stuff. Like, oh yeah, my fetches are going to help reduce this. And
yeah, no, it's cool. And it's a storm deck. So
which is, fun.
Yeah. I mean,
with the altar, you just go Infinite Storm.
Basically.
You're in good colors. Like 3-color. Yep.
Yeah, it's a good 3 colors.
So.
Another deck that got added to the main database is one that we're not so high on, and that's Grolnak.
Lesser Frog.
Inferior Frog.
Yeah.
I've played against it 3 different times, 3 different actual lists.
Bro, he's a tadpole.
Slow.
I just don't like Grolnak as a commander, and there's 4 lists on the database. So, I mean...
It's an interesting Hermit Druid deck, I'll give it that, but I don't see the draw.
It's too slow. Because you have to have it mill off. Like, you have to have Hermit Druid, which is already like a suboptimal combo. Because it has to pass around if you don't have haste. And Grolnak doesn't really supply that much value for you. Because you have to hit with a frog to get Croak.
I think it's just...
Sent to the Croak Zones.
I think it's just one of those decks that's like a pet deck. I think people that were big Gitrog fans saw Grolnak and they're like, yo,
we can play Force Wheel now.
Basically, yeah. And I think it's cute. I think it's cool. I don't think it's one of the better cEDH
I'm with
decks.
Kian. I think it's a suboptimal... Hermit Druid's already not the best thing you can play in those colors. And on top of that, I think Hermit Druid is better with white because of Swift reconfiguration. I know that more Timna Thrasios lists have considered it as an option, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of the front.
Yeah.
I also don't like that their main line is Hermit Druid, right? And when you activate it, all you have to do is Swords their Frog. And if they don't have protection, they flip their deck. They basically consultationed, and they don't do anything. They don't get to play those cards. They're open to more of a blowout than actual Frog, because if you Swords his Frog, he goes, okay, I just sit here for an extra turn and I try it next turn. They try it, they lose if you stop them. Like, they're going to flip their deck.
Or with Gitrog, frankly, you can just be like, I discard a land. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
Every land you have is another combo attempt.
I feel like their resilience isn't there. Even though they have blue, if they don't have the protection, I feel like there's a higher blow up. Also, anytime I've seen this deck play, it's not a threat at the table. It's so much slower, and its interaction... I mean, they're playing blue, so they can play a little bit more control. And they have this self-mill game plan that's cool, but, like, it doesn't pay out the same.
It requires you to untap before you combo off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to immediately diss it, but anytime I've seen it played, it's just not... It doesn't feel like... It feels like it's playing casual while everyone else is playing competitive.
It's like powerful casual.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those decks that you'll have to keep an eye on, and as more updates come out, I think it's one that'll get pushed out of the meta pretty quickly here.
Yeah.
Then another teamer list, you know, coming off the back of Dargo Thrasios is Quark Thrasios. This deck is actually pretty fucking gas. I like this deck a lot. It basically takes the good things that Quark Sakashima does, adds green to that color pie, and is not as targeted as Quark Sakashima.
Yeah.
I think that any Quark deck is going to get a little targeted, but...
A little bit of hate.
Yeah, a little bit of hate, just generally. We kind of touched on it last episode about why it gets a lot of hate. But Quark Thrasios is fun. Like, it's a fun way to play Quark for everyone. It's not just fun for the Quark player. Yeah. So, I like Quark Thrasios as a deck. And I think this is good to see on the database. I think a lot of people have been playing it. A lot of people have been liking it. And I think there's a lot of value to come out of this commander pairing. If nobody else has anything to add on that.
I think it's solid. I think Krog should see more play, and I think it's good that he's seen play outside of just, let me spam 1,000 copies of myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And spin my wheels and call over judges for the fun of it, you know.
And have a goddamn fucking calculus level probability course requirement to play the deck.
Yeah.
There's literally an app for the deck. It's
Yeah.
the Croculator. All right, we're not talking about this. We're done. Moving on.
Salty emoji.
Another deck that got added to the main DDB is Lannis Midrange Clues.
It's
I'll
okay.
be honest, I've never seen this deck. I've never seen it in
seen it.
action. I have no idea what it does.
It just
I
seems
don't
like
know what the commander does.
Lannis is the cryptozoologist, so it's
Crypto, I'm in.
it's blue green. It costs a blue and a green, and it's a 1/2. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to investigate.
Clues.
Investigate. You like
Okay.
this, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you may tap it and sacrifice X clues. Target opponent reveals the top X cards of their library, and you may put a non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from among those onto the battlefield under your control. That player puts the rest of those cards on the bottom of their library in a random order.
So is this just like a flicker infinitely
It's like Clue Storm.
drop your deck?
Yeah.
Huh.
What is the actual full combo? Or is it just a mid-range deck truly?
It's a proactive mid-range deck that seeks to utilize various Clue synergies to storm off.
Oh,
Lannis also packs various A plus B combos that result in infinite clues, which can be translated into various infinite mana combos utilizing a Lannis activation for an opponent's clone effect.
I'm pretty sure it goes Ghostly Flicker Lannis, or Ghostly Flicker targeting Mystic Sanctuary. And that's not infinite mana, but that's bounces with if you have infinite
if you
mana.
think about it, right, you're basically playing with Thrasios because you just throw mana into it and you just pop the clues to draw your deck. I'm sure they just have infinite mana goodies and ETB goodies.
So they're playing Cloudstone Curio loops. So infinite green.
I think this is one of those rare cases
This
that
is a
you're
deck-
going to see a card, a commander that's not a partner that's worse than Thrasios. I would
And-
rather play Thrasios as my commander.
I will say, though, if someone rocks up to a top 16 of a tournament with this, I'm going to go, what the fuck does your deck do? Judge, can I read the DDB real quick?
I'd rather play Kinnan over this.
Kinnan,
agree.
Thrasios. I think a lot of the other. This is Simic, right? Blue green.
I'm
Yeah.
curious as to what the deck does because I thought clues were dog water until I started playing with them, and they're actually a little bit better than I thought they would be.
Well, you got a clue.
Yeah, I got a clue of what's going on.
This is a good sign that a deck is really good.
Like, what
when you go to the primer, and the only thing in the primer is the Discord link.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That explains what the deck does very well.
The only better one was Rebels friggin' Giganta list. Ad Naus, go burr.
Yeah. The win conditions with this Lannis deck are Elf Untap combos, Wirewood Symbiote, Timber Sabertooth, Wirewood Symbiote,
It's your
Cosmic Courier.
basic green, untapped, dry, go.
It doesn't.
I feel like but by the sounds of it, might just do that better.
Can it target itself with the clue set?
No, it's an opponent.
Target opponent.
But I mean, if
So
you
this
can
seems
generate-
like a very
You
complicated...
can generate infinite clues,
and
but
then just make their deck disappear.
the tap effect with Lannis is it only targets permanents in their
Well,
deck.
you just draw your deck, and then you go from there.
Yeah, with the infinite clues. If you have infinite mana and infinite clues, you draw your deck. But for Lannis's ability, you can only target permanents out of the top 6, and they reshuffle. So you can take all the permanents out of your opponent's
They
deck.
reshuffle.
Yes, they go to the bottom.
Oh.
It's like it's
I
like
thought it was
exile
just. I thought it was just delete a deck.
No.
You just go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
So it's
Yeah.
really just
So they're
clouds.
probably not even taking advantage of the tap. It's mostly just
infinite clues.
I
Making
feel like
clues, yeah.
you can swap to that if things get tough.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like a
It's Villainous Wealth on a stick is what it is.
it's a weird deck.
All right, how about I'll print this out and then I'll play it and then we'll just.
Decide, yeah.
This is the most interesting deck I've seen in a while that
Yeah.
I'm not immediately loving or hating. It's
Well, just wait, because the next deck is Old Stick Fingers.
stick fingers.
That's kind of interesting. It's basically tap Praetor's Grasp because you can steal their Oracle if
It's
they get
worse than
exiled.
Praetor's Grasp because
Okay,
it's only...
it's not a Praetor's Grasp, but like on a stick, that's not too bad.
It's not bad. That's why I said it's Villainous Wealth. You target an opponent with an X, you exile that many for...
It's something I'm going to look into, but we can move on.
Yeah, we can move on.
Yeah. So, Old Stick Fingers Reanimation.
Sticky boys.
Reanimation. I've been playing Reanimate lately. Cool. Old Stick Fingers, not that cool.
I disagree. It's cool, but the deck is built on a mound of YOLO.
Yeah.
It is incredibly fucking YOLO. You run like
I mean,
only 3 targets or some shit.
The,
It's-
the description on the DDB says a fast combo deck that attempts to cast Old Stick Fingers and resolve a reanimation spell to win the game.
yeah, that's literally all you do.
So
I mean, that's it. You just Old Stick Fingers reanimate.
What does Sticky do again?
When you cast the spell, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your graveyard.
Yeah.
Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. His power and toughness is equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard.
I'm pretty sure you run like 1 to 3 creatures.
you
tops.
only play Razaketh.
That's it. 1 Razaketh and you just bin him.
Custom tutor.
Custom. It literally just says Razaketh, bin.
So it's an Entomb.
Yes.
Yes, in the command zone.
For 2.
Yes. It's an Entomb only Razaketh in the command zone. Except when someone hits you with a freaking endurance or something. You just
And
cry.
then you.
Funny.
Yeah. Old Saber is cool. I mean, it's a funny deck. It kind of falls under the same,
It's
like,
Golgari.
it's like Grolnok for me. Like, it does one thing very specifically, and it's kind of like, all right, this or bust. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then-
I mean, not to be biased, but like if you're gonna play just black and green, there's a king of that color, and it's the only good frog to play. Like black green is kind of weird for me. There's not a lot of good decks.
Magistrate. Drain the
I admit the deck has some weaknesses, but I'm saying if you're gonna restrict yourself
Rest in peace.
to rock,
Rest in peace.
just play the good rock deck. If you're gonna play rock, play the good rock deck.
Yeah. And then a deck that we're all really pumped about that makes the DDB is Toxrill.
Sadly,
Not Spencer's
not
Toxrill deck,
Magnificent, but
but
Very similar.
very close. Yeah, I mean, it's
Basically the
Toxrill on the
same.
DDB. That's kind of a win anyways. You know what I mean? Toxrill's good, man. We like him. We made an entire
we did a whole episode on
podcast
it.
episode
Where
on
we're gonna move on.
on. We've talked ad nauseum about Toxrill, but go check go check out episode 2 if you guys want to hear our views on that commander specifically. And then finally, the last deck to make it onto the DDB was Timnatana Luca. Is anybody here familiar with Timnatana Luca?
I'm
No.
okay with Timna and Tana. Luca, I'm really curious as to what that is. I know it's a companion. I don't know what exactly it does as a companion.
I'm currently searching for it for us right now.
Which Luca is it?
What's the color identity of Timnatana? Here it is, right here. Timnatana Luca. Okay, so Luca as a companion is Luca, the Copper Coat Outcast. So it's a planeswalker.
Oh, Okay.
So its +1 is exile the top 3 cards of your library. Creature cards exiled this way gain you may cast this card from exile as long as you control a Luca Planeswalker.
Okay.
The -2 says exile target creature you control, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with higher mana value and put that card onto the battlefield. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then its -7 says each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent.
And then it's like a blood pod list.
Okay, so it's different pod.
Yep.
Yeah.
What is the requirements for it to be your companion?
I don't see that.
Oh,
think
this is funny. The highest CMC creatures that it plays are 3 CMC, and then everything above that is Razaketh.
Yeah, so it just cheats in.
It cheats in Razaketh, and then you tutor your deck.
Oh, this isn't a companion. It's just a planeswalker.
I'm sure that there's some
The flip
arena
side.
director stuff.
The flip side is a companion.
No, it's not. It's just straight up a Planeswalker.
It's just the planeswalker. It's just one.
It's from Ikoria. Why did we? That's why we thought it was a companion.
We're sitting here like, dude, what?
Look at us idiots not reading cards.
So the goal
so
just must be tutor.
It's just central to the deck.
yeah, you just tutor into Luca, and then there's no creature above 3 CMC except for Razaketh. So your goal is to put a 3 CMC creature into play, and then basically you're potting it with Luca into Razaketh.
Okay.
Interesting.
Kind of
I like it.
cool.
Do they run pod as well? Because basically they just cooked up a red.
But how do you get there? Because you got to.
There's no pod lines.
There's no.
You have to pot up to it. So it's 3 CMC, then Razaketh.
Yeah, there's no pod lines.
So, cool. Seems really niche.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know. I've never played against it. So it could have proven itself at this point, and we're just unaware of it.
No arena rector. Interesting.
But I'm surprised that deck, out of all of them, made it onto the main DDB.
Yeah.
Does this play the same thing that everyone's hyped over the new Vivian about?
It does not play.
It is not because there's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 line or whatever. This is just a YOLO Luca to Razaketh.
It exiles a creature you control, though, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it just picks the next one higher in your deck.
That's the next highest CMC.
So you hit something like Tana or
Isn't
Tenna.
that creature a 3-drop?
No, the next highest. So it says
The
exile.
one that cheats in a planeswalker.
The one
It's a
that
4-drop.
4-drop. So that's why it doesn't play Arena Rector.
And
That makes sense.
Arena Rector is dies.
Not the Rector, the one that you pay 1 red to cheat in a planeswalker.
Oh, the Plane-Bound Accomplice.
Yes, that
Yes, I recently spec'd on that. Yeah.
Does it play that?
Let's look.
what is Plainbound? What is this from?
It's a creature. It's from the...
Does not.
It does not play it.
That's fine.
That'd be an interesting way to cheat it and save a mana.
Yeah. Because, then it gives you the creature. But, maybe that's just being redundant.
I will say, because the Plane-Bound Accomplice is nice, because as you said, it's 3 mana. You would cheat in the boy.
What
Exile.
drop is it?
It's a 3-drop.
Okay.
It's 2 and a red.
Yeah.
And it has
I
red.
get what you're saying. Maybe that would be a good card to throw in there.
It could be, because I know...
To get Luca out.
Yeah.
Seems niche. You have to have it in your hand, though.
Yes,
You have
but
to have Luca in your hand? Yeah. Oh, then just play Luca, I guess.
It's kind of the same reason I'm a huge fan of the Vivian. But
as I said earlier, 4 mana is a lot less than 5 mana.
Yeah.
And being able to go 4 mana creature, cheat the Planeswalker, because keep in mind, a Planeswalker's non-creature, way easier to counter than a creature.
What's interesting to me is all these decks have made it onto the DDB, and they have no primers.
Yeah, that's kind of obnoxious. I feel like that should be a requirement, is to have a good primer.
I'm a bad Magic player. I don't know how to play your deck.
This is interesting. You can figure it out with enough time, but
I like primers that are sales pitches. I'm like, all right, this seems cute. Give me the sales pitch. I want to be invested in it.
Do you like winning turn 1 or 2? Well, you should play my deck.
There you go.
whose deck is this? This is Vasher? I wonder if they have other lists on the database. They don't, from what it looks like. So it's interesting that this one made it on.
So that was the upgraded DDB lists. And then we have some new entries to the DDB, which we already kind of covered. We have Grolnock Self-Mill, which we talked about.
That's what we just went over.
No, we just went on.
Inferior Frog. You didn't cover Halden Payco midrange, which is updated. Also, what I wanted...
Oh, these are new entries. I get what you're saying.
I got you. Sorry.
Okay.
We covered Old Stinky, Corval Turbo Naus,
Mad King.
and then also Rog Ikra Turbo Naus, which is pretty good. I was looking at it.
Naus, good card.
Naus, good card. I think by far the best deck by name is Marley and Me. Chunky Puppo goes bonk. That just
Oh,
wins.
the Halden pocket.
So
Yep, that
yeah.
just
I did something real bad. I took that list and I was like, I'm quite the fan of dogs. It's funny. I rolled it. Turn 2 breach win with backup. And I went, oh, okay, cool. That was just a fluke. I rolled another hand. Turn 1 dog into effectively draw 4 cards. And I went, I don't know. Maybe I buy this deck. This is pretty cool. It seems like a very scary list. And the dog, unlike other big, dumb 5-mana commanders,
Puppo, he's threatening.
it fucking hits like a goddamn freight train and says, oh, yeah, by the way,
I
I keep those cards next turn. You don't get them back.
Well, didn't our friend Dan used to have a Paco Halden deck? Did you guys ever play with Dan when he had that?
I don't think so.
Oh. We have a friend in our friend group named Danny who likes playing joke decks. Like, he likes playing decks that aren't very serious, kind of like Eric does, where he just brings them into cEDH for fun. And he played Paco Halden, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this dude was a hipster and was playing it before it was cool, because his deck was a menace, man. I've played against it a few times, and to see it get more recognition on the database is kind of cool. I like Paco Halden. It's a partner with should have much more of a focus, I think, going forward.
Yeah.
I think partner as a mechanic is kind of boring.
Overused.
Yeah, it's like just blatant partner is like cool.
I mean, just look at how many of the decks
Partners
on DDB are partner lists.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Partner,
honestly, do a lot.
Honestly, give me more 4-color commanders that are like Kenrith. That are reasonable to cast.
I don't want to see any
No,
more.
I'm not saying
Kenriths.
I'm not saying that shit, but like Nagila's easy to cast at 5 colors, right? I don't want to pay fucking pip for Atraxa when Atraxa's bad. I want
Oh,
more.
that's what you mean.
I
you
want
the
more-
colors and the cost
Correct.
of the abilities.
Just play fucking what's the changeling?
Oh, no, Mirrored Piper.
Not mirrored. No,
Morphon?
Wait, just
Or
play
Morphon.
Morphon. Ban every other 5-color commander and just play
No.
Morphon, and we'll play tribal cEDH.
No.
I like partner with. I think it's
Did
more
Darn Elves.
fun and it's more limited, and you have to really focus a deck for partner with.
Yeah.
Whereas generic partners is not that.
Also, 5-drop with haste. He's going to combat.
Yeah, he's going to combat, but he is often going to be 6 or 7 power on turn 1 or 2, hitting the shit out of you.
And it just scales from there.
Yeah,
Chunky Puppo goes bonk.
dude, like friggin' top deck tutors, so good because you can top deck tutor, and then it's better than like legacy brainstorm. Putting something on top of your deck to protect you from
Or
fucking. What's the flashback? Discard one.
Cabal Therapy.
Cabal therapy. Thank you. It's like you brainstorm to protect yourself from cabal therapy. Fuck that. I'm gonna go ahead and mystical tutor something on top of my deck. Oh, it's exiled and you can't touch it anymore. It is mine.
It's very sad.
It's cool.
So yeah, that pretty much covers all the new things that got added to the database. So before we get into some of the more spicier things, like what got removed from the database, I would like to bring up a discussion topic for us. And what that is, we kind of had a little bit of a discussion here about why we like some decks and why we don't like other decks.
Hold on. Before we get into it, my segment, before they kind of like a segue
Oh
into
my
it.
God.
Guess that flavor text. All right, ready? So this is cEDH playable. It's mono brown. Mono brown.
Oh,
So
it's an artifact. It's an artifact. I knew that.
All right. Part prison, part home.
Part prison, part home.
It's not Nullrod. I know that.
Part prison, part home.
It's
an
from
artifact.
Urza block.
How playable?
Defense grid.
Wrong. Very playable. It's been shifting out of meta, but it used to be like you need this
Hearth and
card.
Home?
No, it's a rock.
So is it brown? As you said, Urza's.
It's mono brown.
It's old. Okay.
Wait, it's shifting out of meta?
Yeah, it used to be if you're playing
Static
cEDH.
orb.
No, it's a rock.
Oh, like a mana rock?
It's a mana rock. It like old days cEDH. If you weren't playing this,
Shifting.
get out
This
of it.
isn't a poor Soul Ring joke, is it?
No,
Shifting out of meta.
it is definitely not a poor soul. It is way more
It's not
expensive.
that
than soul.
0-drop rock that can like put little charge counters on it.
Nope, not Jewel Amulet.
Okay. I don't know.
A mana rock. What
We need Spencer here. That man is a genius.
What is the? Say it again.
Part prison, part home.
Part prison, part home.
Mana Vault.
Nope.
No,
I'll-
it's shifted. Wait. let's brainstorm as a group. Okay.
Okay.
Shifting out
You said
of
Urza's
mana.
block.
Urza block.
Urza
somewhere
block.
in there.
Shifting.
I'm not giving
Oh,
you the
I know.
set.
It's the 2-mana one. That taps for 3.
Grim Monolith?
Is it that one?
Bingo!
Hey, I was like, what's the shittiest one I play in Frog? I know it's something from that era. Hey, we got there.
Hey.
That's funny. What a segment.
What a segment.
Okay, so
It
back
continues.
back to what we were saying. So for a discussion, I like to talk about what do you guys think about nice dropping of your phone there. What do you guys think about how decks get added onto the database? I know that a lot of us have kind of had a few discussions here and there about like thinking about trying to add our list to the database and putting them in for submissions and things. And something that I've noticed is that it just kind of seems like there's not really rhyme or reason to what gets added to the database. They add a lot of things that already exist. Like, why are there 3 Tassiger decks when there's already 4 Tassiger decks on the database? Why do we need 3 more in the Brewer's Corner? Or why does Grolnok make it on the database when it hasn't really proven itself
What
as
is
a
it on there?
commander?
Like, how many times is Grolnok on there?
4 times.
4 times.
Or maybe 5.
I think Kenrith has 6 seats at the table.
Yeah, so it's just like, why, like
He is the round table.
He is the whole
I mean,
room.
Kenneth is probably like technically
He's cEDH Golos.
he's probably the best commander like on the database. So let's like not decks like that, but I'm just saying like when you see all these new decks get added to the Brewer's Corners, like Arden Rograk, or you see like 4 different Shorakai lists get added, or 3 new Tassiger lists gets added. Like, what does that make you think of? Like when you consider the database, like to me, it kind of seems like the database is kind of losing some of its value as like a brewer. Like, oh, maybe it doesn't matter if my deck makes it on the database when you see, 3 more Tassiger decks get added when there's already 6 viable lists.
So this is my own hot take, right? I know a lot of people look at the DDB as like religious text. This is what's competitive. This is what's going to be competitive, and this is always updated. And it's like, if you're not looking at the DDB, you're not looking at cEDH. The way I view it is the same way I look at EDH Rec for casual. I use it as a point of reference. It's like, oh, what are some good ways to look at this deck and take it? I don't build my deck based off EDH Rec, but I'm like, okay, let's just get some ideas.
Let's catch some obvious things.
Yeah. I don't go, okay, this is the way it should be, because oftentimes I'm like, this is a weird card choice. I don't approve of it. I look at the the DDB, goodness gracious, in the same way is that it's a point of reference to help you with finding out what's competitive, what's spicy, what's new, but it's not, this is what is competitive, and if it's not on here, it can't be competitive.
And I think that's how a lot of people, and even the folks who run the thing, they say flat out. So Sheldon has this sort of bullshit argument about the ban list, and I'll tie this in, where he says that cards on the ban list are exemplary. I would ban every single card like this, blah, 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 blah. But certain things stand out as hey, look at this. This is what we don't like. And I think the database does that, but in the opposite effect. It says, hey, look, you like Dockside? Here's 4 decks that loop Dockside. It's not like every deck that loops Dockside that isn't on there is shit. It's just you have to look at what a lot of people collectively come together and say, hey, I've played this, it works, it's functional. You can go places with this deck. I think it is, in the same way I brought it before, exemplary of what can be, not what has to be.
Yeah. And I think to add on to that, Magic is not a simple game, and I think that's what draws a lot of people to that. And there is not an objective correct answer of this is what's competitive and this is what's good. It's very I'm trying to think of the word. It's like a point of view situation. Everyone has their own experience. Everyone knows, oh yeah, I win games, this must be good. And sometimes it's just not the right play group. And obviously, these people that run it are human. And eventually they're going to run into a situation where like, oh yeah, I've seen this type of deck perform very well. This must be good. And you throw it in your meta and it's like, wow, this is absolute dog water. It's just the way the game works.
I was actually gonna bring up human nature. I think it's more simpler than like there's a vast majority of Magic players that are actually like good players. Like they know what the main cards, like what the cards do, what are the best decks. But I think it's simpler than that. It boils down to human nature. That you knew the guy who built this primer. So you put it on the site that you run to advertise your friend because you think his deck is the best because it has the best stats.
I mean,
it boils
nepotism
down
will
to how
always
many
exist.
connections that you have and how many people that you know.
Nepotism will never not be a thing with humans.
I think not a. I don't think it's as
It's more it's less politics than I'm making it seem, but there's still politics in play.
I think so. I think that like if you already have a list on the database, you're more likely to get another list on the database.
Yeah,
As
because
opposed-
then you're recognized as, oh, this is someone that can make good.
Yeah,
plays.
as opposed to like if you're a new brewer trying something different, people are just gonna shoot you down right away.
Yeah.
Especially if you can't explain yourself very well.
Just take like Shaper. Like Shaper could build like a deck that's totally like hot dog shit, and people be like, "Yo, DDB, it's Shaper, bro. Put that shit on there."
Yeah, and that's not
like-
not a knock to Shaper.
It's like Shaper's like no knock to Shaper, but like I'm
He's
just
got a lot to his name and a lot of weight that he can carry.
If he
around.
says something, people will go, "Oh, I'm probably
I'll listen
fucking.
to this guy."
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Why is he correct?" They
Yeah.
just default to that.
Yeah.
No, and I think
and
that
that's human nature.
and I think,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that comes into like the Brewers Corner too, especially. I feel like in the Brewers Corner they just kind of add whatever they think people are into right now without really taking a look at how streamlined that deck really is. Like one deck like specifically that I can reference is like Armix Timna. I've been playing a ton of Armix Timna lately. I've got my own list for Armix Timna, and I think that there's a way to build it. I've been working on it specifically with
The entire mono white Discord. Right?
no, I'm not a friend. I'm not a part. I will not vouch for the mono white Discord. They are.
Mind muscle magic.
That Discord is kind of toxic. Not Josh's Discord either. I've been working on it, talking with Michael Levine, who's the guy that wrote the Heliod Ballista primer.
That's okay.
Yeah, and because he's like a big fan of Timna Armix, and like the way that me and him have gone about building it is by building it like straight Reanimator control stacks Reanimator, right? Like that's how we've been looking at this deck, and like I finally see Armix Timna get some recognition on the database, and it's on the Brewers Corner as an ad naus peer list, and I'm like.
That's a weird direction to take.
Yeah, I'm like, well, that's so interesting.
Turbo
Like,
Naus.
that's
It's
not
kind
at
of
all.
generic at the same time. It's like, I don't know, not every deck that's black has to play Naus.
And I feel like that's something that the DDB kind of pushes. Like, it's the
it
same
does.
thing as like, oh, your list doesn't make it here because it's blue and you're not running
Twister or
Time
whatever.
Twister. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I've
It's
heard
like,
that.
yeah. And it's like, oh, so you're black and you're not running ad naus? Well, it's a bad deck. And it's like, I don't know.
There's some cases where you can say like, "Oh yeah, you're right," but there's also some like, say your Daxos deck. You don't want to run ad naus. You're just going to discard those cards anyway.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So I just wanted to bring that up as a kind of a discussion topic because I think that the community as a whole has kind of been looking at that lately. Like, is the database really the be all end all? Because a lot of people view it that way, especially like new players, right? Like I know when I first came into cEDH, like the database was the cEDH Bible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I look on the database for decks. I don't look anywhere else. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm brewing weird ass shit. I'm brewing like Daxos the Returned King as a cEDH Win-Con stacks deck. Like I'm way out of left field now on I'm past fringe at this point. You know what I mean?
Your kids are so lucky with your DDB. Back in my day, you went on Google and typed in Commander cEDH and just hoped that the top fucking tapped out list wasn't a complete piece of shit.
I was about to say, did it bring you to a tapped out list?
Dude, not tapped out. I mean, I love them. I respect them. But God, that place sucks.
It's not even that bad.
It was the
compared-
best we got, dude. You could get like custom backgrounds. You knew this shit was lit
That was
when they
the
had custom
MySpace of
backgrounds,
Magic.
bro.
It was. It
Yeah.
definitely was like the MySpace of
I
Magic.
remember the Doretti Scrap Savant primer that he had like the best background and like movable text on cards. I was like, if I had money, I'd build this deck. I don't give a fuck what it does. This background looks cool.
See, when I first started playing, when I was playing Commander, I'm talking like, I was playing Commander in 2015 when the first precons came out, and all I knew for deck lists was fucking deckstats.net.
Oh, dude, that place. Oh, yeah.
I have my entire collection still saved on deckstats.net. Like, that was my shit back in the day.
Yeah.
Boomer rant over.
Boomer rant done. But anyways, so I just thought I'd bring that up because I thought it's an interesting discussion point.
Yeah.
And I know that I've talked about it with a few people in a few Discords, and so I thought, what were your guys' viewpoints on it?
It's going to be like any other format, right? Like breaking out a new deck isn't going to
hard
work.
to do.
It's going to be nearly impossible until you show up and kick ass with it, and they're going to go, "Oh, well, I mean, of course I knew that deck was good. I was talking about it for months."
But that's not even the case though, because think about it. This is something. All right, now I'm getting. All right, conspiracy time, boys. All right, so Marchesa, okay, you have a bunch of decks make it into the top 16. One of the decks that tops 4 is Charles' OG Heliod list, right? We talked about it a lot in episode 2 about like our opinions on that list specifically. And something that I've talked about with Charles specifically is that he was told by some people that are reviewers on the DDB, don't even bother submitting your list because it will never make the database. Okay? Now you're talking about as win-conless stacks deck that doesn't run Soul Ring or any other mana rocks, that top forward. It already proved itself, okay? This isn't like any other format, okay? This isn't like Pauper or Modern, where if you 5-0 a tournament, all of a sudden your deck is a meta deck.
Yeah.
And it's on every website available
Yeah.
because you 5-0'd a tournament.
Yeah.
In cEDH, even if you prove yourself with a good deck, people aren't going to consider it a good deck. Like, that's a possibility. So it's one of those things that's weird because, it's one of the only formats that proving yourself competitively doesn't always hold value.
It isn't enough.
Yeah.
I mean, like Blue Farm. We made fun of Blue Farm in episode 2. It's got more top 16s than any other deck, but barely top 4s and never has won a tournament.
Yeah.
Has it proven itself? That's up to debate, right?
Not in tournament play, but stat-wise it has.
Yeah, stat-wise it has. Yet that deck is going to always be praised as something, top tier. So that there's such a thin line there in cEDH. It's a really weird format. I mean, it's interesting. Commander, I think that like the 4-player aspect's always going to play into that.
I think that, and there's like as massive as the card pool is for Commander, there's really only like
a few cards that just keep on showing up in every list.
Yeah, there's always going to be a shell. Like,
yeah, every archetype is going to have a shell.
Yeah.
And you're going to have 80 of the same card, not 8, well, maybe if you include your mana base. 80 of the same cards, and then 20 unique cards for each commander pair.
And then you have 28 lands or 29, or how much is Frog one?
35.
35.
It's one of the highest on the entire database.
It is the highest.
I've been running more lands lately. I've been like at 34.
There was a guy, I gotta find the Reddit post. He's some big cEDH guy, and I think he also posted in the EDH Reddit. But he basically said, like, you need to play more lands. No, I'm not talking to casuals. I'm talking to you, Crom player. You need to play 34 lands.
Yeah.
And honestly, I tried it. It's
32 has been like the sweet spot for me. My Jessica Ishai list runs 29. I'm never going that low again. I think like 32 to 34. I don't know. You have to cut 4 cards, but I feel like any deck can find 4 cards that they're not the biggest fans of.
depends on your mana rocks, but
Also
Yeah.
depends on your luck. You go to me and it's like, all right, land of 7 lands. Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you draw
This
so
is
many lands.
keepable.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't know. For Turbo Naus lists, it's no.
Yeah, I mean Turbo Naus is its own
But mid-range,
strategy,
yes.
But yeah, I just think I think a lot of people think lands aren't as important as they actually are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that we kind of brought that up. I think that was kind of a
Another thing that I've noticed, specifically when bouncing around to different Discords, is because people treat the DDB as like religious text, as I said.
the Bible
Yeah, basically.
or the book of
And because it's,
competitive.
and as you mentioned, so many lists run the same 80 cards and have that 20 card niche play of what is your deck. I find that a lot of people are, because every deck is so similar, it's like, are you playing what is considered the best commanders? And if you're not, you're playing suboptimally and you're not playing competitive anymore. And I feel like that is the wrong mentality, because different commanders can provide different things. And a lot of people take those commanders and try and stick them in a different commander's shell and go, oh, look, commanders are bad, when really you should be adding to those commanders to play differently instead of going, oh, like, as an example, I've been looking at Baby Blue Farm, right?
I was just about to say, I think you've perfectly segued yourself into our removed from the DDB section.
Yeah.
You may go on.
Okay, so I wasn't a huge fan of it when it started getting discussed in the Sans G or like the Blue Farm Discord, and I was like, okay, it's kind of cute. I think it's cool, but I don't think it's good. And I started looking into it more in the lists that were playing it, and they were basically playing verbatim the Blue Farm deck list. I'm like, these commanders, you can do some niche interactions with, say, like Oswald or not the engineer, the scrap welder, Goblin welder, right? Engineer, obviously, ETB, put an artifact in your bin, good card. The welder, it's not obvious what its value is, but with your clues, you can recur stuff, and he basically becomes essentially a super mana dork.
Super mana dork.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that your commanders can do that you wouldn't see in a blue farm list. But because those are considered suboptimal for the Sans G color scheme, they just don't run them whatsoever. And I'm feeling like you're holding back that partner pairing back from where it could be. And
It's like you get insulted for even discussing the concept of thinking about it.
yeah, they're
think
like,
you're
what?
missing
You're playing Sans G and you're not playing Tin Macron? Oh, bad deck.
So
I think you're missing the reason why it's a good deck. Luris.
Yeah.
Like, you turbo out, you try to win turn 2 or 3, and then you play all your pieces again. Because you can replay Breach, you can replay Grinding Station, replay XYZ.
Well, I mean,
Oracle.
this is
Oracle.
true. It is considered, like, the Luris is there for a reason.
Yes.
It's obviously good. But to ignore what your commanders are is kind of a shoot in the foot, you know?
So
that
something
wasn't-
that I will bring up that you touched on. There's a podcast that exists that isn't ours. Gasp. And I don't know if any of you guys have listened to it, but if you haven't, you should check it out.
Probably not. I only listen to Sad Naus. Subscribe, like, comment.
Anyways,
Make sure you hit that notification bell.
anyways,
Shut up! We want to get subs.
that this podcast is called The Miscast, and it's by two guys that are originally Legacy players that are now cEDH players.
Miscast isn't legacy playable.
No, it's
Lamau.
called The Miscast because it's a
Oh,
podcast. But anyways, they talk about how they think that the cEDH meta is flawed, and they think that it's flawed because the cEDH meta falls into the same trap that EDH falls into, which is that cEDH is a mirror of a casual format. So people play things that they want to play instead of things that they should play. And their idea is that the meta is always going to be broken in cEDH because it comes from a casual format. Because if everybody played the best thing possible, then everybody would play Blue Farm. And you'd only see Blue Farm decks at tournaments because Blue Farm is the most optimal deck to play. And you wouldn't see monocolored decks. And you wouldn't see two-color decks or three-color decks. And
I
this
think
was
that's the appeal of EDH, though.
it is, but this was just their
I
opinion
get
on
you,
this
I get you,
discussion
I get
point.
you.
Was that like
Yeah.
the meta is flawed until we reach a point where everybody plays the most optimal deck?
God, I hope that never happens, dude. I played competitive Pokemon and it's fucking awful.
It's never gonna be that way, but I think they're coming from a legacy perspective where Delver's the best, so everybody's gonna play
playing
Delver.
Izzet Delver.
Or everybody's playing these 5 different decks because they each counteract each other,
Yeah.
and that's it.
There's
that's
basically
their meta.
3 decks. There's the king, there's the thing that kills the king, and then the random out there, side
Yeah.
deck that just comes and sweeps the B.
And then there's Mono Red Prison that just sometimes wins.
Yeah, so they kind of brought this up as a discussion point, and
then Dark Band.
and it brought up like a ton of heat in the community, like on Discords, on Twitter, on Reddit. Like everybody was talking because they were specifically talking about monocolored decks and talking about how like the only reason why monocolored decks found success at Marchesa was because they are not bad, but aren't good decks in theory compared to other decks, so people undervalued them. So they only performed well at the tournament because people were underestimating them.
Kobito did say that in the...
He did say that, and there is a little bit of truth to that. But I also think that like the 4-player aspect plays a huge role in how decks perform in play. But that kind of brings onto what you're saying about like 4C Luris. Is like people are gonna always be like, well, why aren't you just playing the other thing? right? If I want to play Yeva, well, why aren't you just playing Selvala? Or why aren't you just playing Yi?
Why aren't you playing established deck and brackets?
Yes, exactly. And I think that kind of defeats the purpose of cEDH. Like, I think people pride this format as a brewer's paradise, you know? Like, you're always going to get to play what you want to play, and you can make it viable. Even if it's not,
You can make it.
you can make it viable. You can make it pretty damn fucking close. You know what I mean?
You're playing black. Naus. There
Yeah,
you go.
basically.
get
So
him, champ.
I think that, like,
Slap on the ass.
there is this trap in the community where everybody thinks that, like, oh, there's always something better. There always is something better. Why are you playing Blue Farm when you could just play Kenrith? Why are you know what I mean? Like, there's always something better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that, like, a lot of these things are fucking don't really matter.
Bryce over here just had a fucking epiphany. He's like, why don't I play Kenrith? Oh my gosh.
Fuck, I could play. He's a 5/5.
Green? Oh my gosh.
Dude,
Wait, did you say reanimate on a stick?
Summer.
No, but I think that these are like valuable discussion topics, and I think the communities, they're never going to agree on everything. I think that we've established that at this point.
And any rock, paper, scissors sort of game where you can come up with a new tool to throw in, everyone will shit on you for not playing rock, paper, or scissors. And then they're going to say scissors is tier 2, so don't play it.
Well, there's also recency bias in cEDH more than anything.
A lot of people are closed-minded, but I feel like even though a lot of people are closed-minded, there's like the community that's always like open-minded. Hey, that's a cool deck. Maybe we should like help each other figure it out. And then there's always going to be people like.
I think there's a shift going to that. I think that a lot of this community comes from. I mean, the people that wanted to play competitive originally were guys that were playing Modern or guys that were playing Legacy or other competitive formats, Standard.
Or you were just playing EDH having fun and you were like, my friends are mad at me, I might as well just play with the sweaty kids.
That's where a lot of today's generation of cEDH is. But like way back in the day, like cEDH players were coming from a state of like, I already play competitive other formats, how far can I push this one? And I think that's where you get a lot of this like this toxic mindset of like, well, that's just not good because this is better. And I think that there's a big shift now in like, you can make anything good. It's about how hard you want to work towards making it good.
And frankly, 4-player kind of destroys that entire aspect, right? Because like if you're playing 1v1, you can collect data until you say, okay, this deck has a 63% win rate. You should just play this one. It's statistically the best on an average tournament. And you can see these Reddit posts. People grind out friggin' numbers for hours. And they're right. They're objectively correct. This one has a 1/3% higher chance to win. You should run it. But in 4-player,
There's so many variables.
Exactly.
How about this? You sit at the table and you're playing the deck with a 1/3 higher win percentage, right?
See what happens.
All three of us are going to say, hey, that guy's deck statistically is better.
Go get him!
Let's not let him win. And now your win percentage dips.
I guarantee no player listening to this has ever had a game that they didn't lose because someone had shit threat assessment. Even in competitive environments, people sometimes just fucking make mistakes. Or they're like, well, that guy seems like he's ahead. I'm going to kill him
We've
first.
watched it at the highest level of competitive. We've watched people make mistakes to lead to someone else losing the game.
I mean, the Magda game, I literally was watching that
decay
live.
your
Dude, abrupt decayed, and I was like, I was watching that stream, and I went, oh, he shouldn't have done that, y'all. And then immediately, Kobito was like, yeah, I'm going to explain why you're going to get slapped right now. He was like, oh, I'll activate my... And no,
yeah. And that's a learning experience. It happens all... Dude, I've lost so many games. Dude, the fact that, like, you guys can attest, I have, like, a really high win percentage in our friend group, and I never win tournaments that we play in. And it's because I always lose to my fucking self. Yeah. I lose to myself. I make so many fucking mistakes in play. I win... Like, I have like a 50% win rate, except when it matters. Like, it's so bad.
I'm like the opposite.
It's just because people make mistakes and people learn. So, we kind of went off on like a big fucking tangent there, but that was cool.
But that was all about 4-color lures being removed from the DDB.
Which, speaking of being removed from the DDB, a bunch of shit got fucking removed from the DDB. And a lot of it was bad, and a lot of it was good. Some of it was good. I won't say a lot. But,
some of it was Godo.
I'm still waiting.
So the Brewers Corner we'll talk about first, and then we'll talk about the actual DDB second. And these topics are a little bit shorter than the stuff that got added, because less gets removed and more stuff gets added every time that we go through an upgrade cycle. The first thing that got removed from the from the Brewers Corner was 4C Luris, which you touched on, Bryce. Big mistake. When you're talking about like Turbo Naus, I think that 4C Luris or Baby Blue Farm is like, in my opinion, significantly faster than
It
Blue
also
Farm.
has the benefit of the restriction of Luris is literally why you play Adnos. You're like, oh, I can't play things that are expensive? Cool, I don't want to.
Yeah, you're so low to the ground.
There's a couple cards that you're like, shoot, I really missed out on that, like a Ristic Study. But most of the stuff that you need to do your main lines are in that 2 CMC category.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that that's a list that needs a little bit more love. I think that people are kind of downing it, but I think it's just because people are like, why would you play that when you could play Blue Farm? When it's like, this is just lower to the ground Blue Farm. It's like the same shit, basically.
Honestly, it just plays more like Silas Rog than Blue Farm. It's like a completely different game plan change.
Yeah, and you've been playing with it more than any of us. So.
It's good, it's scary. Honestly, I feel like you picked up more wins with it than...
I would agree.
Honestly, I have. Like with Blue Farm, I've done more king making than I've actually won. With 4C Lures, I've just gripped it and ripped it, as Kian has been teaching me, and you win games with that.
And I can tell my shift is different.
You just got to go for it.
Yeah,
I
just
see
go
you
to
play
it.
Crom or Timna, and I'm like, oh god, he's getting ahead. But I see you play these little derpy children, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? And then you breach me, and I'm like, oh, well, fuck, I didn't have anything again.
No.
Meanwhile, Kevin always has something for me. Always has something for me.
Stop trying to win first.
I was time to go. Okay, everybody
No
was
more,
tapped.
no more bitching.
Another deck that got removed from the Brewers Corner was Bankodama, which is another list that we touched on earlier. So they basically removed the original Bankodama list and they added Kodama Ishai stacks. I think that's just a pure upgrade. I
Yeah.
think you take out what was like Sakadama with white combo, you kind of remove that and you add this Sakadama list that adds white first stacks.
I think that's the direction it should be going in the first place.
Yeah, I think that was a good move by the reviewers for the database.
I'm devastated to see Feather go. I love Feather. I don't think it's good enough. But
I don't
love
even know what Feather is. I'm not familiar with that as a list.
the white and red bird lady that copies instance.
Yeah.
Or you like exile him and get him back.
Must not have been good if I don't know about it.
I don't think it's cEDH
it was-
viable, but I wanted it to be so bad.
It was Boros spell slinger.
Oh, I don't think. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting way
was
to
okay,
play
I
that
remember
color
it.
combo. Yeah, Halana Timna Hulk. That was also removed from the Brewers Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're
Not
better
that
Hulk
good.
decks, honestly.
I think it's a lot.
Just to
better
fucking
Hulk
to
decks.
contradict our point we just made a couple minutes ago.
Well, I
I
mean,
will say there are other Hulk is already.
you
but,
can
like,
have that viewpoint without contradicting what we said earlier.
Yeah.
Like you can say that there's just significantly better archetypes for that deck. Especially if it means that like a specific deck won't be viable. Like I think you can say Baby Blue Farm is viable, and you can compare it to Blue Farm. I think by saying like Halana Timna is not a good Hulk deck compared to other Hulk decks, I think you're allowed to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have
'Cause it's
5
the
other
same
decks,
game plan.
6, 7, 10 other decks that play Hulk lines that are just better than Halana Timna. I think that's a fair argument to have.
Well, not only that, but with regards to Baby Blue Farm, it's not that, it's trying to do the exact same thing. It's a different direction to take it. When you're trying to take things the same direction, that's when you can kind of go, okay, how does this compare against decks that are doing the exact same thing?
virtually the exact same deck.
Yeah, and then you can start doing those one-to-one comparisons.
You have a main road, and then you have the side road that loops back
yeah,
to
and it's
the main
like,
road.
and that's why you have multiple deck lists for the same 2 commanders.
Yep. Some other decks that got removed were Lear High Tide, Marisil,
Yep.
Naya Stacks,
Yep.
Sans Blue Turbo Naus,
That was poopy.
Tevish Tana Farm. Get rid
Gundam.
of every fucking farm deck that's not a farm deck. I'm sick of saying this. But anyways, Tevish Tana Farm.
What do you mean it draws you cards?
It's not a farm deck.
What do you mean it draws you 2 cards?
It doesn't
It
It
have,
creates a blocker and draws you 2 cards.
it doesn't even have fucking Timna. It's not a fucking farm deck.
It is though.
Whoa. I don't think every farm deck has to have Timna. But I
That's
think,
the whole reason for it being called farm.
No,
Timna is a farmer.
Okay.
No, actually, Bruce Taro and Timno were the reasons why people started.
I know,
calling
but it's
farm
just
decks
like
farm decks.
farm.
he was the farmer.
Farm is lost. I mean, farm
was
went.
Timna.
Farm went from being Timna and Bruce are farmers to if it draws you cards, you're farming for cards, to, oh, if it's a deck with Naus, it's a farm deck.
Slap it
like,
on there.
Fuck that. I'm just tired of hearing the name farm. You know that they're changing the entire database to get rid of farm except for blue farm?
I'm okay with that, honestly.
Yes, that's awesome. I get rid of farm.
Describe your
It's-
deck better.
It's
I don't
such
play
a,
bad decks.
It's such a stupid...
I
Dude,
want to associate Tevish with the word grinder.
listen to
because
how
he's grindy.
mad I am at this. That
Yes.
Tim Armix deck, the list on the database, that guy, I mean, that's a good deck. Okay, whatever. He calls it Cat Farm because it plays Luris.
Cat.
Oh,
And,
God.
and it's called Cap. I'm like, bro,
It's
shut
not
up,
a farm deck.
shut up with the fucking
I'm
farm.
about to slap your ass.
And then the last deck to get removed from the Brewer's Corner was Teysa Razaketh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't have much on it, honestly.
Basically, same thing. So that was pretty much it for decks that got removed from the Brewer's Corner. And then we got the heavy
Actual
hitters,
DDB.
the cards that were removed from the database.
Database.
Braylon Shabraz's Curiosity.
Just to make sure, these are ones that still have a category, but just this particular list got pulled.
Yes.
No,
Because the next category
The-
is
yeah,
remove
the-
categories.
that's categories. But what, like Braylon Shabraz, I don't even think is on the database anymore.
Is it not? Okay.
Yeah, is it correct?
Yeah. No, it's just guy.
Just guy.
Just guy. Let me double check this because this.
Yeah,
might be
no,
right.
there is.
There is
yeah.
still Braylon
Yeah.
Shabazz?
Yeah,
Okay.
there is.
So
These
the
are
most-
specific.
It's just the list got cut.
Okay,
these-
so these are specific lists that got cut. Okay, so then we can kind of we'll skim through these a little bit then. So Braylon Shabaz's Curiosity, it's kind. I mean, it's a curiosity deck. It's the same as Niv Mizzet. I mean, put Curiosity. I think on is it Braylon you put it on, and then it's same with like Malcolm Curiosity.
I
Like,
think
it
these lists are
works.
just old.
cards.
The notes say that they just.
Oh, many of these lists were simply removed because they haven't been.
Yeah.
Maybe we should read before we go over these
Reading
topics.
the card explains the card. Let's move to the real category, the actual removed from the DDB that we were referencing.
Yeah,
Chainveil Teferi.
yeah. Chainful
That shit is
Teferi-
a boomer's boomer.
It is now on the outdated on the database, and I don't think you'll ever see Chainfield Teferi make it to cEDH again unless we get out of the creature meta.
It's too slow.
It's too slow, and everything else does it better.
It's cute how it works, but mono blue, like,
Just play Urza, bro.
I mean, it's
To
shitty.
contradict our point
Again,
before.
There's a lot of good
But
mono blue out there
seriously,
right now.
yeah.
Like you could play Urza, you could play Chip, you could play a lot.
It's
of
too
stuff.
convoluted. It's old.
Not even that. Teferi's not gonna stick around. He's gonna get fucking bonked on, bro.
Yeah,
And, like,
Papa will bonk him.
Papa will bonk him. Anything will bonk him. I don't like. I never
Kenny's a
liked.
5/5.
I never liked Chainfield Teferi. I knew it was kind of like a boogeyman for a little bit.
It's
there.
cute. I like how it. All of the previous activations, it sees itself with the Chainveil. It's cool to explain the rules, but yeah, it's not good enough.
Yeah. The big honcho,
big-
The
Mr.
oopsie.
Controversial, Godo Helm,
Godo, waiting for his spot back.
waiting for his spot back on the DDB.
This man got up to get a hot dog and came back and was like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
What sucks?
He's like, fuck, I've been waiting in this line for how long? And I
For
What's
11
so-
minutes.
lost my spot.
What sucks about Godo is it's a collaborative primer. So there's only one Godo list because the best mono red minds put their brains together to make one perfect list, and it gets punished for not having new cards come out to
And
put
it's
in
so
it.
tight that like taking any single card out is probably a mistake. Let's be honest.
Yeah, so for those of you guys that don't understand what we're referencing, Godo Helm Waiting for Godo got removed from the cEDH decklist database because it hadn't been updated within 6 months. The reason is because there's this weird ruling on the database website that says if a deck doesn't get upgraded every 6 months, it gets moved to the outdated section of the database because it has not been upkept in a timely manner.
I think that's a good thing. It just sucks that Godo got
Good or bad?
technical.
There's a couple decks that got taken out because some of the decks we were talking about earlier got taken out because of the same reason. It just caused a lot of controversy in the local scene because Godo is very much still a viable deck.
Very gas.
It's very good. It wins a lot of games still, and I think a lot of people were upset to see it get removed over a technicality. I know a lot of people were saying, why didn't you just message the primer writers so they could update the list? And then the guys on the reviewing team got kind of in their feelings about it. Like, it's not our job to tell people to upgrade their list if it's in the rules. And it's like, okay, sure. We're not going to make an exception for a specific deck just because it's popular. And it's like, okay, sure, but you had to Grolnok to the database as if it's a good deck. So
Can we really trust you? I mean, I don't know. The freaking Primer Rider doesn't even really care. He's like, whatever, I don't care.
he's like,
People
it's
know
going to
where
get
to
back
find my
on.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Godo's never going away. It's going to get added back on soon. What sucks about it is that they updated the primer, but
not
because
the
they
list.
didn't update the list, it didn't count.
Quick note to all the Godo players: once a month, just pick a new basic,
Just stop in a snow for a regular basic.
and then just pick a new art. It'll be a fun exercise.
Yeah. So they go to home. And then we'll get to the decks that actually got removed. One of them is Gigantha Naus.
We talked about it before.
We've talked about it on our first episode. It's a cool list. It's a Rebels list. It's fringe.
Yeah.
Gigantha is kind of a fringe card. You can put Gigantha. Gigantha Sisei was fringe already. So
I think with the companion rules change that you have to pay 3 to put in your hand and then play it, really take that down a notch.
yeah, I mean Gigantha's
It's really sad.
Yeah, her ability's cool. At that point, though, in like 5C, like, think about it. You got like Gigantha, and then there's like Cody.
Yeah.
They kind of do similar stuff.
Dude,
And
be
like-
more open-minded. God.
I know, but I'm just saying. Like,
I mean, I feel like a lot of the allure for Giganta is I'm playing a 99 card deck,
Yes.
and it's like that's not in Modern. I will argue to the ends of the earth as to why fetching is card advantage in Modern. In a 60 card deck, a fetch is a real percentage of a percent. But in EDH, I mean, God, it's 1 out of 100 cards. Christ, it's not helping.
yeah.
Something to note, right? I had to look this up recently because I was having some mind-boggling problems with Moxfield, and it caught me on a ruling I did not know about, right? Companion does not count towards your 100 cards. It is your 101st.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
So I thought I was missing a card, and I literally was because I took out a card for Luris when I swapped over. It is your 101st card.
It's,
Oh,
it's
so
from
you-
your sideboard.
Oh, I
Your
am
commanders
wrong.
count towards your 100, but your companion does not.
Never mind. Scratch what I said. Then
No.
I don't know why you would play Giganta.
I
honestly.
literally learned this this last week.
Wow.
No.
I would have, if you put me on friggin' $64,000 question millionaire, I would have missed that every time.
I'm sorry, what was that show? I've never heard of it before.
It's some old boomer shit. Don't worry about it.
$64,000 question millionaire.
Wait, who's the host of that? It was like some
Regis Kilbin or some shit. I don't remember.
I think it was Aaron Rodgers or something
Aaron
like
Rodgers,
that.
the Big Cheese,
um,
Hulk Hogan.
so then Gigantha Naus got removed.
Then
Have you guys ever heard of this list? Because I haven't.
Yeah.
Pure Toothy Storm.
Yeah,
It's okay. I've seen it. It's fine.
I played a couple.
I want to look at this because I don't even know if it's on outdated. I want to see what it does. Because
I played a couple
here it
games
is.
on Spell Table, and some dude
Oh!
was playing it.
Yeah,
and it
pure
was,
toothy. I like.
Yeah.
but
These are partner commanders. No
Yeah,
wonder.
It's the guy in the imaginary worm or whatever.
I wasn't around for Battle Bond,
It
believe
was
it or not,
okay.
so I don't know any of these cards.
It's a weird list. There are other blue decks.
It's Simic.
It's
and
Simic,
there's-
whatever.
They're a dime a dozen.
Still, I
Young
would
green
like to
good
see.
stuff.
I
Green
would like
good
to
stuff,
see
yeah,
more
of course.
partner with stuff. So it's kind of sad to see some of the partner with stuff go away.
No,
You don't think so?
no.
I like
Partner's
partner with.
overused.
No, partner with.
Partner
So,
is
like,
the first
specific
word you
homies.
said.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I mean,
but partner with is way cooler.
Like
in
it's
my
hard
opinion.
to select.
it's like friends forever.
He's like,
It's like
He knows what
I
it is.
know. I'm
He's
fucking
fucking
with
with
them.
me.
you gotta pick your boys.
Like how you guys are
And then-
mansplaining to me what it is, and I'm like, I fucking know what it is.
And then a direct attack on Cal himself. Rashmi is no longer
Adios.
viable
Got
on
the
the
axe.
database.
Got the axe, dude.
Got
You
the
can't
axe.
play it off Lotus. It's bad.
Dude, Rashmi.
I will say honestly, I tried playing decks that could, or like commanders that can't
I mean,
be
you
played off
could.
of Lotus. It feels fucking bad when you have a.
What do you mean you can't play it off?
I mean, you
Lotus?
can go like land, like Rashimi or Lotus
Land Lotus
Rashimi,
Rashimi, yeah.
but like,
She cost 2 blue green.
yeah,
2 green.
Oh, you're
blue,
baiting
yeah.
me. I thought it was 3 pips.
no,
No.
Killing me here, brother.
Look good.
Well,
if it
even
was,
then you could still play
it. but
debated.
yeah,
Got
I
him,
mean,
coach.
it's sad to see some decks go that you've. Oh my gosh! Wait a minute. What? This Rashmi list only has 6,000 views. No wonder it got removed from the database.
Huh.
Yeah, dude, I didn't realize it was so not popular. I guess it's just because like a lot of freaking content creators played the list. You just think that it's more popular than it is.
Honestly, probably. I see it on YouTube channels all the time, so I assumed it was like a big boy list.
No, yeah, it's not that popular compared to other lists. But yeah, and so that's pretty much it for everything that got added and removed from the database. So, what are your guys' takeaways from this as a whole? Like, this is the first update we've seen in a while.
It's a big one too. The
It
last
is a
one was
big
kinda
one.
small.
I mean, every once in a while you see individual lists get updated, and they'll get updated pretty often. I know that I'm like super ingrained into like the stacks list on the database, and when those things get updated. But seeing like an official update is really cool. It's nice to see some things change. It's disappointing to see some things go and some things not go the way you'd assume that they would go. But overall, I think it's good to have this kind of transparency with the community as a whole. I think we got to give a lot of props to those guys that run the database because it's a fucking lot of work. I know they asked for a huge like reviewer cycle recently where they're asking for like as many reviewers as they can get because I think like when the database first started, they were getting like 60 submissions a review cycle. So every 3 months they'd get 60 lists. And I think this last review cycle, they got over 350.
Damn.
Yeah. And when you consider the database started as like 5 guys.
Yeah, so it's a bit rough.
Yeah.
Especially like you basically have to understand every friggin' style of Magic play ever made just to like look at the list and know if it's good.
I remember on the review sheet it asked you like if you have decks on the database already, what type of deck archetypes you play, what experience do you bring to the database itself. So like they were like pretty serious about like who's reviewing these decks. I think there is a little bit of saturation on the database, especially in the Brewers Corner. You see a lot of just like whatever's new, they're going to let onto the Brewers Corner, whether, you know, it's a really clean list or not. I want to hear from you guys. Are you guys going to submit anything to the database, do you think, coming in this next review cycle? Are you guys eager to try anything new? Or do you think that what's the bother? Just kind of brew what you want to brew and have fun with it, not worry?
I will say, sort of open question to ponder in the future. Do you think there's ever going to be a problem with the database getting too fat? Or are there going to be too many lists at some point? You know, if you take out 6 lists and add in 20 every cycle, will it ever have too many exemplary lists?
I think that they keep it to 100.
Is it capped at 100?
So they keep it to 100 archetypes and throw lists under those commander archetypes. So I think like the Brewers Corner gets real fat, and I think that the actual database itself, if they only add 6 if they remove 6.
Okay, so its entire category is not...
I think that that's how they kind of cycle that through.
Okay.
But I do think you're going to get to a point where you're going to have too many lists that are considered viable. And I think that you're going to have a point where you're going to remove a list from the database that people are like, hey, why'd you take that off? We still play that.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, well, because this new thing is here. And you're going to get like it's only a matter of time before... what's the commander you used to play? Turbo Naus.
Rog Silas?
Not the other one.
Oh, Magda.
No.
The one you played before.
Before Rog Silas, same color.
Kess?
Oh, Kess.
Kess. So like it's only a matter of time before Kess gets removed from the database, just because it's an old list. Even though Kess is still very viable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the type of stuff that like I'm worried will happen in the future.
If we have that many viable lists, sounds like a healthy format to me. Yeah, you get some downsides, but I'd be much happier than seeing 3 good lists and 1 list, you know?
Yeah. No, I think it's good. I think because it's a revolving meta, right?
Yeah.
So okay, what's gonna happen? They're gonna remove a list like Kess from the database. Then people forget that Kess exists. Then all of a sudden Kess makes some noise in a tournament. Now Kess is back on the database. Like it's just gonna constantly revolve. So I think that's a good thing. But I don't know. It worries me a little bit because it's fast growing. And it's very healthy now. Like cEDH is very fun right now. You can just pick up any deck and have a good time and win some games and have fun. And I just hope that you don't lose that feeling as the format gets more popular. And not as like in a gatekeeping way, because I want as many people to get into the format as possible, to have as much fun as possible. But like you get to a point where you're gonna have a lot of opinions fueling what decisions get made in cEDH. So what happens at that point, you know, who knows? But I think we're headed in a good direction.
I think we're in a good spot going uphill.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't know. I think you summed it up. like it's describing the meta change, or like showing us what the meta change is for cEDH. And I think it's going to constantly evolve and grow as the meta evolves and grows. And like you guys were saying before, like an old deck might resurface, or a new deck might resurface and tick down, other lists.
What did Game Nights have the other day? A message to the WotC Commander team.
Who cares?
Please don't ruin our format.
Yeah, please don't ruin our format, WotC.
Slow down with the power creep.
Stop printing treasure on every fucking card.
Please print a black-green 2-mana creature that's uncounterable and can discard cards. That's
No,
all I'm asking
no. All right, would you get that? Okay,
You can have whatever you want. I don't care.
Ooh. I want a free call.
Add Naus, but you gain life.
I think adding on to what you guys were saying about the DDB, I don't think it's perfect. I think it's great for the community. I think it's a great tool. I think it's really good for just cEDH players to see what else is out there, really. And I think it's amazing that it's there and it's upkept.
It's a good tool.
It's an amazing tool.
To give you an idea, I had a buddy he plays cEDH like crazy, and he's a big Legacy player. He recently joined our Discord, and I've been talking to him on cEDH, and he's like, "Okay, bro, sell me on cEDH. I don't really know much about it, but my opinion is negative right now." And I said, "There are a shitload of lists you can play," and I went on and on and on, and I paused and I went, "Adi, you can play Storm," and he said, ... Yeah, okay, I'm fucking in. What do we got? And I just linked him the DDB list, and immediately, ideas running through his head.
Yeah,
and he can reference lists.
Fucking Treasure Storm. Yeah, there's so many Storm decks.
Yeah.
I told him that Brain Freeze was a real Storm card with Storm printed on it, and it could win games. And he was like, "Oh, me like you Storm."
So, yeah, I mean, that is pretty much it for our episode today, guys.
We just have some closing housekeeping stuff. I don't know. Do you want to go over it? I was just going to mention Midwest Gaming Classic is this weekend.
So this weekend, it's going to be this next following weekend, it's going to be the week of the 29th of April.
28th, 29th.
Yeah, 28th and 29th.
Pauper Legacy cEDH.
Yeah, and if you guys want to come, it's going to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Wisconsin Center. There's going to be our friends that own Sly Patch Gaming are going to be holding Magic the Gathering events there, along with plenty of other events that are going to be held there. Pinball games, fighting game tournaments, plenty of cool things if you're just into gaming in general. So that's going on this coming weekend.
You also win a Sly Patch playmat signed by us.
Oh, what if we give away one of our playmats, bro?
Signed by us. By the whole Sad Naus crew.
Yeah, so Sad Naus, not Sly Patch.
No, not Sly Patch. I'm not going to have Tyler dirty my mat up.
But yeah, so if you guys want to come, if you guys come to the Midwest Gaming Classic, we're going to be there. And if you come say hi, if we get enough people, we're going to give away one of our playmats. Then, as always, make sure you guys head to the cEDH Metagame Project. Submit all games that you play with your friends, whether in tournament play or casual competitive play. Submit it to the Metagame Project. It helps things like the database exist. It helps other people get a grip on what is going on in the cEDH metagame as a whole, and it helps the community in total. And we'll link that down in the description as below. Well. Also, we are planning on going to Tier 1 Con in August. It's a big trip for us. We are from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
We're moving to friggin' Malmo, Sweden.
Yeah, and to Copenhagen, Denmark. So that's going to be going on.
I'm learning Danish.
That's going to be going on August
3rd through the 5th.
No, not 3rd through the 5th. 5th through the 8th.
All I know is I'm taking a plane over there.
Yeah, we're going. Anyways, we're going to be at Tier 1 Con. So if you guys want to play against us in a competitive tournament, see us there.
Just spend thousands of dollars.
First meet us at Midwest Gaming Classic, and
then if you're in Europe listening to this podcast, we will be at Tier 1 Con.
I think that's
also if you live in Europe. Can I move in? Please help me.
But we'll also have a link to Tier 1's website in the description. Yeah. And then finally, join our Discord if you'd like to talk with us and chat with us. We jam games. Active. Yeah, we're pretty active in there. We jam games all the time. And we're just looking to grow our community as a whole. And we will have that link in the description as well.
I think that's pretty much all from the Sad Naus crew tonight.
Yeah,
We're
make
gonna
sure-
get some gameplay videos coming up soon. Hopefully.
Yeah, we will be getting gameplay videos in.
yeah.
Just make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right, peace out, guys.
Gooses.
Peace.